One of the goals of globcon is to offer coherent and consistent control. That's why when we learn how to use a globcon tool, it can then be used for any device. Let's have a look at the routing panels, which work in the same way on several devices. Today they are available on the Andiamo series, N1K2, Xbox MD and other DirectOut devices, but they will be exactly the same for any product controlled by globcon in future. The first example is the port routing. This is a very quick way to straight patch all the channels of an input port one-to-one to all the channels of one or more output ports. Let's have a look at that when used on M1K2, a very well-known 16-port MUDI router from DirectOut. The grid follows the classic style, having inputs or sources on the left, organized in rows, and the output or destination in the upper part organized in columns. We can switch between system or user labels clicking on the relevant button. We click on Edit Labels and then on the channels we want to rename. Press Return to confirm or Tab to confirm and move to the next channel, while Ask or click somewhere else cancel the operation. While typing the names, all the usual shortcuts are available, such as copy, cut and paste. Once finished, we press again the Edit Labels button, which stops blinking. A single click on an empty cross point makes a patch of the entire input port, one-to-one, to the selected output port, indicated by a green square. A click on a green square makes the unpatch, cleaning up all the output channels of the output port. By clicking and dragging, horizontally or in diagonal, we can select multiple ports. The number of currently selected ports is indicated in white around the mouse pointer. When the mouse is released, we are prompted with a bunch of options: patch, unpatch, set patch tool, copy patch shape, and cancel. Let's patch the first 8 input ports to output 9 to 16. Let's now unpatch them. When unpatching, is not important if the output selection happens in row or in diagonal. Let's now show how to cancel the operation after having selected several ports. We can select Cancel from the pop-up menu or press Ask on our keyboard. Other options will be explained in the next video tutorial. When the output port is not fully and one-to-one patched from an entire input port, the square becomes gray. Let's unpatch just one channel from port 1 using the Matrix tab. Going back to port routing, we can see that the square indicating the active crosspoint is now gray. When an output port is getting feeds from more than one input port, the port routing shows in column multiple gray squares, one each input port involved. Using the matrix, we now patch some inputs from port 9, 10 and 11 to port out number 1. In port routing, there are now 4 gray squares. When an output port is having feeds from multiple input ports, showing several gray squares, a confirmation is required if we want to force a new complete one-to-one patch. When patching multiple ports, the ones with complex routing are skipped and they can only be patched individually. Powerful, easy, globcon.